You almost never see support weapons like the laser cannon or machine guns against Terminids or Automatons because heavy and super heavy unit spam gives them very little room to work. Chargers, hulks, and other armored threats make them feel much weaker. But against Appropriators, the new Illuminate subfaction, those same weapons suddenly feel much better. And that raises a much more interesting question. Are these weapons actually weak, or are the enemy designs just worse in other factions? The real problem has two sides. First, the weapons. The weapons I mentioned all struggle for different reasons, or sometimes a combination of them. Some have bad ammo economy, like the heavy machine gun. Some have only medium or lower armor penetration, like the maxi gun or the regular machine gun. And some do have heavy penetration, but still do not deal enough damage to heavy targets, like the laser cannon. Then there are the enemies. Charges and hulks have heavy armor, and they do have weak spots, but accessing them is sometimes borderline impossible without the right loadout. A lot of the time you need to stun them, distract them, or somehow get behind them. They will track you all the time, and accessing a weak point that is on the enemy's back is really hard. And while you are trying to do that, smaller enemies are already chasing you or shooting at you. So even if your weapon can technically deal with those targets, in practice it often feels slow, risky, and frustrating. And once you add other enemies to the mix, like factory striders that can snipe you from far away and shred you up close, or bile titans that spit at you, blur your vision and slow you down, the whole problem becomes even worse. That is why these weapons often feel weak. Not always because the weapons themselves are bad, but because the design and mix of enemies in other factions make them much harder to use. Let's start with the easiest one, Obtruders. They are unarmored and they do not have much health, so there is really no weapon limitation here. Anything that is meant to clear lighter enemies works. Autocannon on flak mode, laser cannon, machine guns, all of that feels fine. And they do not really force specific loadouts either, because even without a support weapon, you can still deal with them reasonably well using your primary or secondary. Next, the Veracitor. This is a bigger enemy, so naturally it needs more firepower, and you do see them more often than gatekeepers. But the key difference is that they only have medium armor, so even if you are just dumping machine gun fire into them, they will go down sooner or later. And more importantly, they are not just bullet sponges. They have multiple well-designed weak spots. You can shoot out one of the legs and kill the whole thing instantly. If you do not have medium penetration, you can break the shield first and then kill the pilot. You can also shoot off the arms and make them much less dangerous, and they even have smaller unarmored sections too. Then there is the Gatekeeper. This one is tankier and it does have a lot more heavy armor, but even here the same design idea is still there. It has accessible weak spots. You can kill the pilot. If you have medium penetration, you can focus the legs, so even though it is tougher, it still gives you real ways to fight it. And that is the most important thing about these enemies. They have multiple weak spots, and those weak spots are actually accessible. Yes, some of them are smaller than something like a charger's butt. But the difference is that no matter how these enemies turn, you can usually still shoot something meaningful with a medium penetration weapon. You can melt the pilot with a laser cannon, auto cannon, or even a machine gun. You can destroy a leg and kill the whole unit. And it is not just about the weak spots themselves. Chargers constantly turn toward you, which hides their only weak point. Dodging them is sometimes impossible, and even if you manage to do that, you only have a couple of seconds until they recover. Veracitors and Gatekeepers feel very different. Even when they are facing you, there is usually still something to aim at. And if a Veracitor charges you, you have a much better chance to survive it. They are slower, their attacks are easier to read, and dodging them feels much more fair. You can even move between the legs. There is also one more thing. These enemies feel more responsive. When you hit a weak spot, they react. They get staggered, even if only for a moment. And when they die, the kill feels meaningful. Maybe part of that is just the effects or the ragdoll, but it still matters. Now look at another Illuminate heavy unit outside this sub-faction, the Harvester. It also shows the same design philosophy. Yes, it has heavy armor on some parts, but its accessible weak spots, especially the leg joints, only have medium armor, and that is why I almost never feel like I need something like a recoilless rifle against it. A regular machine gun is often enough, so even though harvesters are tankier and their weak spots can be harder to hit, they still follow the same basic idea as the Appropriators, and that is exactly why these weapons feel so much better here. I do not think the answer is that simple. Some of them still have real problems. Bad ammo economy is still bad ammo economy. Low penetration is still low penetration. And some weapons still do not have enough damage to become amazing everywhere. But outside of that, I still think the answer is yes, at least when you use them against enemies that are designed very differently from the Appropriators. Too much heavy armor, too many enemies that hide their weak spots, too many situations where the weapon can technically work, but only in a slow or frustrating way. Appropriators change that. They make more weapons, more builds, and more playstyles feel genuinely viable. And honestly, I think that is the real solution. Not just buffing every weapon, better enemy design, more armor variation across different body parts, more weak spots, even if some of them are still harder to access, and more body parts that, once destroyed, kill the whole enemy. I would love to see more enemies designed like this going forward, because Appropriators make a lot of weaker feeling weapons finally feel like they are actually allowed to work. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to support the channel extra, you can also join as a member. There are 2 tiers, and if you want your name to appear on the support wall at the end of my videos, join the higher tier. Thanks for watching.